In this video, we are going to see if we can discover a little more about this internal mode of unfolding psychology. But before we do this, shall we just look at a brief summary of what these three philosophers are saying? In the first place, they are saying that the most simple principles of our world and its operation is to be discovered and cannot be derived from existing logical empirical structures. Free invention is held by all three of them. The active and directed engagement of long-range understanding is the summit, summa cognitio, of the internal means of discovery. Overcoming the limits and obstacles of established structures and notions, dogmas and personal difficulties, active life engagement, the creative principle, which is specifically mentioned by Einstein. This is principally viewed in our own perception, our own cognition, or our own self-consciousness. We think that these observations on discovery reflect a deeper relationship of knowledge between internal and external psychological worlds. Why are these internally forming discoveries mentioned by these two modern inquirers viewed as so striking and unusual? These claims are striking precisely because they are contradictions with our existing dogmas and ideas. We may say that we live in a time, in comparison with the ancient Greeks, with a vastly different forming and formed knowledge, and it's advancing or forward rolling since that time. Hence, we may say every new principal discovery seems to be undergirded by this deeper psychological relationship of perceiving, forming knowledge between internal and external psychological perceiving, forming frames of reference through time. It seems that this underlying principle of discovery, which we establish as a rule, has remained relevant across different forms of knowledge. It teaches us that each new discovery at a future time would be made possible on this method, which we have shown is the long-range case. So, stated clearly, what our rule is saying, it is this, that there are no external, rearward-looking references for this kind of internally formed creative discovery. We hold, therefore, that this internal psychology of discovery is independent of the form of experience and references of the world and its knowledge and its understanding. And so this would be the underlying constructive forming principle of equivalence between inner and outer worlds, even in a new time. The formative and self-perceiving discovery, the internal discovery, possesses no external references. It is wholly an internal connective process. That this inner process of forming in every human being and the whole of nature is also a reflection of the creative, perceiving, forming, and formative principle of the whole psychological subsistence of the universe itself. must be evident. Simple Platonism, the creative, ever-forming and formative principle, free invention, pure thought, pure intellectual engagement, and inward internal forming are commonly held by these men as aspect of a higher and more abstract internal means of forming knowledge and discovery. And it is, in addition, all captured by our rule that we have just unfolded. Projection and the creative principle doesn't seem to be bedfellows, as it were. Well, they are intimately and fundamentally conjoined. Married is the word, and it has nothing to do with sexual theories, just so that we know, make this distinction. Inwardly and outwardly perceiving, forming projections. The principle and the psychology that is the principle and the psychology that we explore in all of our presentations. But here is the thing, the thought that we are going to leave you with. And it is this. We cannot ignore where Einstein gets it from. Not from contemporary, shall we say, held principles. And they all separate this mode of discovery, this internal forming discovery, from existing logical and empirical structures. It hasn't escaped us that in his Herbert Spencer address, Einstein literally jumps across 2,500 years when he talks about where he could provide a framework of his discovery. Pauli is very explicit where he gets his framework for his discovery from. So is Proclus. That brings us to the end of this series on discovery of our beautiful modern physicists and what we think is what they mean with free invention and their connection with early Platonism. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, love yourself and others.